Rockwell Diamonds is engaged in the business of developing and operating alluvial diamond mines to become a mid-tier diamond mining company. The company has 3 existing operations, it says here, namely Saxon Drift, Clip Dam, and also Tirasano. It's also got a couple of other pipeline projects. In the studio with me now is the CEO of Rockwell Diamonds, listed on the JSE Securities Exchange, and that's James Campbell. Before we get into the exciting news of the 287 carat stone that you've unearthed in the mid-Orange River region, tell us a little bit more about Rockwell and your association.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure.
I've been with Rockwell Diamonds for 2.5 years now, and I was brought in by the chairman of Rockwell, Dr. Mark Bristow, who is also CEO of Randgold, to continue the turnaround of the company which he started at the end of the year before last. Rockwell Diamonds, as you have just said, is an aspirant mid-tier diamond producer. At the moment we have 3 mines in the Middle Orange River: Saxon Drift Mine, Saxon Drift Hill Mine and Nieuwe Jarlskral Mine. 2 of those mines, Nieuwe Jarlskral and Saxon Drift Hill, we completed during the course of this year with working capital. And then our 4th mine is a Tirasano mine in the northwest province.
Where did you get these assets from? Where did you get these properties from? Were they spin-offs from De Beers? Were they something that you staked out and developed yourself? What's the history of them?
Tirasano mine was an acquisition from Etruscan Diamonds made about 2 years ago. And the Middle Orange River mines, particularly Saxon Drift Hill and Nieuwe Jarlskral mine, were acquisitions from Transhex.
Okay, and obviously they're doing quite well. The company itself, I mean, I always look at a company like this and think to myself, diamonds are a difficult business. You've got Transhex, you've got De Beers, and you've got yourselves on the JSE, and it always seems to be very mysterious to me. And occasionally someone will come along and say, I've just found this. Who was I speaking to the other day? Who's that chap that used to work for De Beers, the Oppenheimer man?
Clifford Elphick,
yeah,
CEO of Gem Diamonds.
Precisely, Gem Diamonds there. And occasionally they will come up with a massive stone from their Lesotho mine, and then everything goes quiet. It is a bit mysterious, isn't it?
Yes and no. I think the business you're referring to with Clifford, and which is the same for Rockwell Diamonds, is that we both produce small numbers of very, very high quality, large diamonds. So it is very much newsworthy. In fact, with Rockwell Diamonds, you have to process something like 2 million tons of quality gravel to get one 100 carat stone. The other part, I think, which you talk about the mysteriousness of the diamond industry itself, is that unlike gold or oil or copper, you can't actually look up the diamond price in the newspaper.
Yeah.
So there is a certain opacity, for want of a better word, in terms of diamond pricing. But if you're an insider like myself, all I know is actually diamonds. There are things such as the Rappaport price list and other things which give very detailed and accurate indicators of diamond pricing.
Okay, here's the big story now. It says here that you have unearthed a 287 carat diamond described as being of a tinted white commercial colour and makeable in shape from its Middle Orange River operation in South Africa. It was the 5th large stone from the resource in 3 months, which Rockwell said served to reinforce management's decision to focus operations in the MOR region, the Middle Orange River region. The diamond would be sold, it goes on to say in Mining Weekly, into the beneficiation joint venture with Steinmetz Diamonds at market value, with Rockwell participating equally in the value uplift once it has been polished and sold. What happens when something comes out like this? I mean, I'm looking at a picture of it. It's like a gull's egg. It looks absolutely beautiful. What happens? You get excited, obviously.
No, we obviously get terrifically excited, and we also get quite concerned as to try and keep the information as quiet as possible and get that diamond as quickly as we can to our selling offices in Johannesburg, where it's nice and secure. And then starts the process of negotiation with Steinmetz Diamond Group, which we have a strategic alliance with in terms of the sale price. Because as you can imagine, something as unique and special as this, it's not just looking it up on a piece of paper saying it's worth X. It's a discussion. Yes. And the discussion basically talks about what is the largest polished diamond you can extract from that, and what are the other diamonds you can extract from that, because that would guide the pricing of the rough product itself.
So this is not a blue-white and it's not flawless, but tell us about it.
If it was a blue, white and flawless, it'd be worth well more than the company's actually worth.
Yeah.
I would dearly love that. And in fact, we have produced a couple of blue, white, flawless stones this year, which have gone sold for north of $35,000 a carat. God. Sadly, it's not actually in that line. But this diamond is actually, it's got a couple of spots on it, and it's got a bit of a brown tint on the edges of it. So there will be some discussion in terms of the maximum you can actually get from it. But the process after we've sold the diamond at a commercial negotiated price with the Steinmetz Group is they will then cut and polish the stone, or stones. in Johannesburg, where we cut and polish 85% of our production, and they will endeavour to get at least a 100 carat polished out of it, and hopefully many more sizable diamonds in the order of 20 plus carats.
But big is best. I mean, size does matter in the diamond industry these days. What was that stone that sold in Hong Kong recently at auction at some ridiculous price? I noticed at auction there have been some incredible diamonds coming under the hammer, and they get some very glamorous prices. And I think it's because of the ostentatious nature of the new millionaires, and actually mostly billionaires these days, that are buying diamonds and buying Ferraris and buying all sorts of other things.
Yes, our main market, once the diamond has been cut and polished, is certainly the Far East. China, Malaysia, India, and there are people who collect diamonds like we would possibly collect stamps. And in fact, there's a very interesting legend. In fact, it's probably true that once you buy one diamond, there's an exponential probability you'll buy another, and it becomes exponentially more. You buy 2, you buy 3, you buy 4, you'll end up buying 10, 20, etc. And these collectors look for a couple of 3 things possibly. Size does matter, I agree with you there.
Yes.
They'd look for colour and uniqueness of colour, and they'd look for cut. You know, what is the cut of the diamond, and does it suit their preference in terms of their collection?
So size obviously is important. Blue-white is obviously the king of diamonds, but also coloured diamonds are extremely popular these days. Maybe in smaller stones for jewellery, etc. But do you find coloured diamonds in your operations?
Oh, we certainly do. The Middle Orange River is very famous for its yellow diamonds, vivid yellow diamonds.
Yes.
And in fact, one of the largest polished vivid yellow diamonds coming out of the Rockwell stable was an 81 carat vivid yellow, which was launched at the Singapore Grand Prix of last year.
Yeah.
Sadly, it's yet to find a home, but this is going to go for a multiple millions of dollars, and you can imagine that's not quite the gull's egg as you referred to earlier.
Yes.
But it's a fair sized stone, and we find those vivid yellows, like pinks, like blues, attract very high premiums.
Let's talk about this one now. You'll get it down to a 100 carat stone, and there'll be lots of spin-offs. How much would the 100 carat stone that you speak of enthusiastically go for potentially?
It's actually very difficult, and I'm not kind of trying to hedge my bets on this, in that we firstly got to acidize the stone, because the pictures going around in the media today are unacidized, and we expect the stone to clean up significantly.
Yeah.
And you've got to open up the stone, much in the way that you might open up a human being to kind of inspect that person during surgery. We've got to actually open up the stone and have a look at it. We produced one of the 100 carat stones we produced in September. On the surface, actually looked quite poor. But once we actually uncovered it, we actually managed to get a fancy yellow from a portion of the stone, which we didn't think at all possible to begin with. So the stone will be opened up, and then we can say exactly what kind of quality, size and shape we can actually get out of it.
What would someone do with a 100 carat diamond like that? And you talk about your market being the Southeast Asian market, and it's I think you've got some statistics that we were talking about before this interview about the type of millionaire that is growing the fastest, whether it be the 5 to 10 million or maybe the billionaire. What type of person is buying this stone, or will potentially buy this stone when it's ultimately cut and finished and polished and everything else? And where does that person come from, and what does he or she do with it?
Well, our main market for these larger stones are these what they call the high net worth individuals, HNWIs. And these have been growing at a steady rate of 5% per annum for at least the last 20 years, with only actually a small glitch around the 2009 depression. And the highest proportion of these are obviously in North America and Canada, but the highest growth portion of these are actually coming out of the Far East. And I think the other notable part about this is that diamonds are a very mobile source of wealth. It's something you can put in your pocket, and you can walk from country to country to country. And not only that, it's just a very beautiful part of actually your wealth collection at the same time.
Wasn't that long ago. I'm just looking at the from an investment point of view now, looking at the Rockwell share price. Not the most traded stock on the JSE Securities Exchange, but on the other hand, it's done rather well, because if I can work it out, it wasn't that long ago. It was around about 120, 125, and also has been to as high as 450. Currently trading, according to ShareNet, anyway, around about 350, 360. So choppy growth because of the nature of the illiquidity, but also quite steady growth as well. Are you confident that with these sort of finds you can also continue to grow, and from 350 we might be at 550 in a year or so?
I think there are two parts to that. I think the first part is that we have very low liquidity on the JSE. Less than 5% of our shares are traded here, and 95% of shares are traded on the TSX. It's an issue.
In Toronto.
In Toronto, yes. It's an issue, and it's something we're actually trying to manage. I think the other part to that is we've published 5 consecutive quarters of revenue growth. We publish our next set of quarterly results in January of next year. And what we would like to show the market, and what we've actually set out to do a couple of years ago, is to show consistent, steady performance in the bottom line of Rockwell itself, and with a view that the market would reward us with a steady increase in our share price.
So you're committed to increasing the liquidity and tradability, for example, for the retail investor on the JSE, because it's impossible now.
It is, and we've got to look at ways of actually doing this without doing a capital raise. I'm very cognizant that Rockwell has got a lot of very patient shareholders over the past couple of years who've put money into the company itself, and they would obviously like to see a return. So we don't want to raise new money, but at the same time we want to increase liquidity.
Who are those people, by the way? Who are your shareholders?
Our largest shareholder is a Steinmetz Diamond Group. Then other shareholders we have out of China, a hedge fund, out of the Middle East, another hedge fund, out of New York, another hedge fund, out of continental Europe, Earth Resources, which is a very strong shareholder. And our largest South African shareholder is Kraton Capital, which own just under 5% of the company. So in fact, we've got shareholders from all over the world. Many of them I will call legacy shareholders from the beginnings of Rockwell, but others like Konus Fund out of New York, which have grown from about 2 or 3% to just under 10% over the past 2 years.
If I was cynical, I'd say the fact you've got so many hedge funds as shareholders is the fact that the hedge fund managers are so rich, they want to have first stab at the diamonds that you produce.
Well, no, we have a marketing agreement with the Steinmetz Group, and we're not obliged to sell all of our diamonds into it, but we can... Sorry, we're not obliged to sell all of our diamonds into it, but we actually generally do, because we achieve fair prices and we get the beneficiation value from that.
James, it's very exciting. How often do you get this sort of stone coming out? You've had some big stones, as I said in the article that I was reading from in Mining Weekly. You've had 5 recently. When's the next one coming in? What's the sort of frequency that you uncover these gems?
Well, during the course of September and October, we recovered 4 plus 100 carat stones over a 3-week period.
Gosh.
The preceding 100 carat stone came in July 2011. And our calculations suggest we would recover a plus 100 carat stone every 2 million tonnes of processed gravel. And it's not an automatic thing. Process 2 million tonnes, ka-ching, out comes 100 carat stone. But that is how it works out if you look at the overall history of the mine itself. But the bread and butter of Rockwell are the plus 20 caraters which actually come out.
We'll leave it there. James, thanks very much for popping into the Cape Town studio today. That's James Campbell, who's the CEO of Rockwell Diamonds.
Thank you very much.